So, Rebel story. At my last full-time job, the one I had before this, it was a good place when I started out. Came from a very stressful environment. Moved in there. Was shocked that like people were happy and friendly. It was a wonderful change of pace. It was really good for a while. Very, very pro-employee kind of atmosphere. Lots of all-hands meetings. Would bring everybody together. The CTO would do the same. It's same speech. All about you, all about the company. Without the good people, we wouldn't be successful. All the right messages, and I buy into those sort of things. To me, like that's preaching to the choir. You should be doing those things. And in the technology marketplace, it's a struggle to hire people, especially good people. So you have to be doing that if you want to be really competitive and not have super high turnovers or be paying over the margins. So I finally maneuvered myself into a position I really wanted, and was working with a couple of software teams on the most important project in the bank. And on a Friday, another guy I worked with, the guy who originally hired me there, comes to me and says, "Hey, look at the new structure." And I said, "Well, where's Jamie?" And Jamie was the manager of the software teams. And he's like, "Well, he's not on the list." And I'm like, "Well, what's up with that?" Because he's a super guy, nothing but respect for him. He's like, "Well, they're changing things around. It's what the business wanted." And I thought that was kind of the only change. But then Monday morning, we come back into work, and Jamie, the guy who has no job, has to gather the entire teams together and tell them that there's been a change. This project that you've been working on for now over a year and a half isn't yours anymore. Those three guys over there are going to work on it some more, and the rest of you are not. What happens to us? I don't know yet. Do we still have jobs? I don't know yet. And just kind of the look on their face was totally disheartening. One of the worst experiences of my professional life. And I said, that's just not right. And strangely enough, I'm still on the preferred team, and there's a kickoff meeting later in the day. I'm in a foul mood by the time this rolls around, as you might imagine, and it's a rah-rah kickoff meeting, and I'm like, exactly, that's the face, right? This isn't right. This is like, I'm expecting to hear what catastrophes are the cause of this, and instead it's like, oh, we just changed direction, and there's new business people involved, so even some of the business people like got the same boot, and then they're like, oh, and by the way, we're still looking for a QA person to fill the open role. And I'm thinking, we have a full-time female technology employee downstairs who does not know if she has a job right now. And I'm like, that was it. That was the part that kind of put me over the top. So the rebel moment is I went home that night to send off a wonderful letter to our vice president of technology, who was brand new in that role, explaining to her that, hey, this isn't what I hear when your boss and his boss come and speak to us, and heard nothing back for weeks, and then I got kicked off the project, as you might imagine, literally the next day, and I didn't tell my boss or her boss that I was sending the letter because they would have obviously recommended against it. But at this point, I'm a full-time employee, so I feel like, and I've been in big corporations before, so I'm not really afraid of getting fired. It is a career-ending move, though, right? That is as high as you ever climb the ladder, so don't do this unless you plan on moving on. And I'd already planned on moving on, and by that Friday, I already had a job offer back here in the city. So I'm waiting to hear back, and I don't by Friday. So I say, well, this still isn't right. So I sent off another letter to the HR department. And then I get really creative. So I pull down the corporate values from the website, which HR owns, And I go through the entire list and say, how does this promote this? How does this promote this? How does this promote this? And I go into the fact that, hey, we've got a QA woman downstairs when we're struggling to hire technology people and especially women in technology. And by the way, the woman that's driving all this, she's on the leadership group for women in technology for our company. And then HR calls because they have to, and which is kind of nice. And they're of no help whatsoever, none at all. It's like excuse. And so I argue with her because it's fun, and she can't really defend the position. I have good arguments for everything she says, and it's against all the things that leadership is preaching, and nothing ever happens. But she obviously does something, because the following week, the vice president decides that she wants to have a phone call with me. So she arranges for a 30-minute phone call. Equally uninspiring. There's a woman I would not hire to tie my shoes. It was just literally totally uninspiring. Everything like completely bad excuses for why I should have handled this better, and I should have come down and done it in person, and it wasn't until that point where she finally sends an email to the people that got kicked off the team saying she's sorry, which I'm sure was prompted by HR. And I mostly just tune it out because I'm leaving anyhow. And I get to the end, though, and I want to give her one last jab, and I say, oh, but what about the part where you kicked me off the team? I'm supposed to be protected when I go to HR. And her answer was, we felt that was in your best interest because we thought you'd be emotionally unhappy with the situation. And I'm like, that's not your decision to make, and it's totally against corporate policy. And then HR calls me back, or HR emails me back and says, so how'd it go? And eventually I sent them another letter and said, not very well. This is what she said. These are the same reasons. And then the HR person calls me back, and she's like, what? Well, they should be able to decide who they want on the team. And I'm like, only within the remit of keeping to the corporate values, which is like the start of the corporate values. It says, everyone must follow the corporate values and be held accountable by everyone else, including all of leadership. And so I told her that, and she says, I guess we'll just agree to disagree. And I'm like, not sure exactly what you were disagreeing with, but I guess the moral of the story is kind of startups are the way to go, because this is why I try to get out of corporate America. Is exactly this scenario, though kind of ended up in my benefit, but it's difficult because a lot of those people are visa employees, right? Most of the IT are foreigners from India, and they're here on visas that they cannot change jobs without severe repercussions. So they are a captured audience and have no recourse to even voice an opinion. So I was kind of glad I had the sort of stomach for the fight, and was disheartened that a lot of high-level people, such as directors, didn't. That they stood by and stayed silent and did very little in effect. And I think it was well appreciated by the people that were there, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat because it's just not right.